I'm in pause mode.
Yeah.
I'm in pause mode. Oh, good man. Prop manager.
Prop manager. There's a whiteboard. You got.
Yeah, right. I should have brought my whiteboard.
All right. Good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the SolarSurge podcast. And this morning, I've got another special guest for you here, Julian Todd-Borden. Did I pronounce that right?
You did, yep.
All right.
You did.
And if you don't know him, then you must not be on YouTube because he's got some of the most popular solar videos on YouTube. And so, Julian, thanks for sitting down with us for the podcast. Really looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I mean, I came across your videos, I think, before I even started my YouTube channel. And, for those of you maybe haven't seen him, but he does some of the great whiteboard videos, product comparisons, solar panel. I think that was what I saw was one of your solar panel comparison videos where you just kind of had everything broken down on a whiteboard. Here's the wattage, here's the STC, here's the temperature coefficient, and, just kind of getting right to the facts, ma'am, for the homeowner.
So I always thought about, if I was creating like a guide for my parents to go solar, right? Who doesn't want to give their parents the best deal possible?
Mm-hmm.
But if I couldn't be the salesperson and I had to give them a guide on how to pick the best system for them, what information would you give your parents or a loved one? So that's basically the background thinking of what I do is I'm going to create videos that simply help someone that I love make the best decision.
That's great.
That's it. No secret.
No, that's great, man. That's a great approach. I really like that. I really respect that. Because, that's one thing that I get watching your content is that a lot of the videos have this sort of this like, hey, buyer beware, or like insider secrets, like, hey, what you need to know about how the solar industry really works, or what you need to know about how solar really works, and just putting that information out there for consumers so that they're in a better position to make the best decision. So
and I probably got a little bit lucky being in San Diego because in my market, I don't really need to do a lot of convincing you that solar makes sense. Most people in at least Southern California, by now, maybe not 5 or 6 years ago, but by now, probably half the block has solar. And so people are already accepting of it and they're more understanding of it, but maybe they just don't trust the guy knocking on their door, or they get spooked by something, like no one can explain whatever they're not understanding. So for me, I already knew that it was a hot market, and so for me, I was just thinking, how can I help navigate people towards making the best decision versus spending time trying to convince them that solar is what they need to do. So maybe if I was in another market, it would have been a little bit different. But in the last 5 years in Southern California, it's like flying off the shelf.
So how have things changed? Now, the video we were talking about, that was a 2021 video. Now we're here 2 years later. Lots changed, as you know, in the market. What are some things that you think homeowners need to know now? People that are considering making the solar investment now, what are some things that you think they really need to know before jumping into a contract?
The main thing is, now with storage being a big factor in all of this, it used to just be size it to 120% and you're done. Now it's like there's this whole more complex equation with how much excess is being produced, how much can the battery store, how much output does the battery have, can it actually power the loads you need during the evening or the night. So working with a solar consultant that is going to take all of those factors into account and take the time to actually size a system and build it for you. I think that now with sizing battery storage, it's going to require a little bit more legwork, and so working with a consultant that you can sense is taking the time and really asking you all of the questions in order to come up with a solution that's actually going to help you. Because it's one thing to oversell someone, but in my opinion, what's worse is to sell someone something that doesn't end up doing what you said it was going to do.
Well, I think you're right. I agree with a lot of the sentiment. We've had it so easy for so long. Maybe not me. I've been a battery guy for a long time, but
yeah.
But solar in general, as a sales professional, if you kind of learn the basic script, you could get by on that, and build a career and build a really high income for yourself just learning the basic sales script without having to get into battery calculations and all that. What would you say to people that are new getting into the industry? There's a lot of young guys get into our industry,
yeah.
And frankly, a lot of what attracts them is this. Oh, there's this high income potential in solar. I want to get in, and I want to, make a lot of money and all that. But maybe somebody who got into the industry on that kind of a premise, now they're realizing, wow, this is a lot more complex than I thought. Well, what advice would you give to that young sales rep who wants to be successful in this space?
So what has made me successful, and whenever I see other people that have become successful, it's usually because they've gotten in tight with a really good mentor that is going to, in person, multiple days a week, be there to explain, not just do a few lessons, but because really to learn this industry, it's not taking a few 2-hour courses and then you're an expert. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little conversations and aspects and facts and stats and specs you need to know. And so, it's tough for a lot of people, and I feel for them, because if I didn't have a few of my mentors back 5, 6, 7 years ago, it would have been hard for me to learn and fast track my knowledge. If you're a new rep, don't focus on trying to go make a bunch of sales right away. Yes, you want to put yourself out there and try, but more times than not, they don't have any idea what they're talking about. They'll find someone that's interested, and then they don't know how to navigate the conversation. And then it's a wasted opportunity. So yes, you want to go find people and try, but the best thing you can do is basically humble yourself in the beginning and allow a more experienced salesperson to essentially close the deal for you, do the consultation, and then you sit there and learn and just watch and absorb as much as you can. And I literally did that for 20 deals.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Again, a lot of people are attracted to the industry because of the earning potential, but you really have to be a professional to earn that way. I mean, you have to know yourself. I mean, look, there's other ways, and very more than anyway, there are unethical ways you can hit that income number. Yeah. Not by knowing your stuff, but just by kind of twisting things a certain way. But if you want to be well regarded and have long-term success in this industry, I think you do have to take it as seriously as any other profession. Engineers, doctors, lawyers, they know their stuff. They study a long time to know their craft.
Yeah.
Solar is no different. I mean, you can probably get there faster, but I would say, a solid 6 months a year of just learning. And then commit to continuous learning, which is why we're at shows like this, because the technology is changing every year. Yeah. And the policies are changing.
Yeah. They're only going to do this once for the next 25 years, so making the best decision possible to me is going to not give them the best results, but like you said, in a long-term sustainable business, I mean, that's why the average rep is in this for 7 months and then quits, because they get homeowners mad at them, and then they feel bad, and they didn't even know what they were doing. Mm-hmm. Most of the time. They didn't even know that they were misguiding them because they weren't trained.
Right. Now, another thing that I really am getting from the conference here today is that, although we might be operating on the sales and marketing side of the business, the other side of the business is the actual physical construction. What we call EPC, engineering, permitting, construction. It's all one business at the end of the day. We all have to be successful together. Now, one of the things is a lot of these contractors are going to be going out of business here soon.
Yeah.
Not managing their cash properly, interest rates, rising, things like that. So, what do you think? What do you think that a young sales rep, particularly coming into this environment, what do you think a young sales rep needs to know about how the contracting side of the business works?
When working with a contractor, I would say that I just always like to reverse engineer the process and put myself in the customer's shoes. So if you, as a salesperson, are trying to partner with the best contractor EPC, I would go through the same process as if I was a customer looking for solar. Does that EPC have good reviews? Because there's a lot of these horror stories where these salespeople will, work hard for 6 months, do 40 sales, and then their contractor decides to ghost them, and they fire them or something, and then they don't get paid. So I've been in a similar situation, not exactly that, but that's happened a few times to me. So I would say before you get too in bed, right, with one company, make sure that they're truly legitimate and they're good to other people.
Sure.
Because it's not just, screwing over customers that's an issue. It's contractors basically taking advantage of their sales reps. So understanding the true motives behind the EPC that you're partnering with will give you an insight to how the future is going to actually play out.
That's great, and I'm glad you said it like that. And I guess it's just like we might tell the homeowners, like homeowners, I say a lot, like you can't shop for solar just on price per watt. It's not just a numbers. Solar is not just a number.
Absolutely not.
And I would say same thing for a sales rep. If you're a sales rep looking for a contractor to partner with, don't just look at the red line.
No.
Right? I mean, what good is a low red line if you don't get paid, if the jobs never get installed?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so much easier to just offer high quality equipment with experienced installers, with healthy, financially backed companies that are going to be on that person's roof in 2 to 4 months doing the installation. Solar already saves you so much money. Like if we're talking about saving you $50,000 to $100,000, what is really the difference between $1,000 or $2,000 between like the cheap stuff and the high quality stuff? In the long run, it's a lot of headaches that are being avoided, not only for the customer but also the contractors. The contractors having to go back and do multiple service like truck rolls, for replacements. I mean, that's how a lot of these companies go out of business.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of reps, they pretend to be like, they have this attitude like they're doing you a favor by saving you $1,000, and it's like really all they're doing is setting you up with a subpar system that still is very expensive. You're spending a lot of money either way, so you might as well have something that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is surgery on your home's electrical system is the way I've described it sometimes. You don't want the cheapest surgeon working on your electricity. I mean, you wouldn't shop for a doctor that way. You wouldn't shop for a lawyer that way. No. You wouldn't buy a house that way. So why buy your electrical system that way?
I think that the market has, our advertising has been so focused on saving money that it's almost like we've trained the customers too much to be thinking about this in terms of saving money, when in reality, the customer should be thinking more about, their grid independence, against blackouts, hedging against inflation, deciding to raise the value of their home thousands of dollars versus just paying the utility. So yeah, saving money is great, but I mean, we can all save money in our lives if we want to change our lifestyle, right? And
right.
I don't think $50 a month really excites people very much. I think knowing that you have your own energy system and independence, and now with EVs coming into play onto the market, like, it's not the gas station, it's your house where you're going to be charging up. So I think that the whole saving money, yes, it's important, but it's not going to be the centerpiece of the conversation going forward. So, with NEM 3.0 on the horizon here, or not on the horizon, it's here. And of course, with all of the other states that, have not ideal net metering policies, these batteries are obviously the centerpiece, I feel, of the discussion moving forward. And there's a big debate, not a debate, but a conversation about, AC versus DC coupled batteries. That's why I'm here, to talk with all the manufacturers, but I'm curious if you've seen any, really great new battery features or any products that you feel have a distinct advantage. And then also, if you can just touch on the AC versus DC coupled architectures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, first off, let me say that I think that people get very religious about this.
Yeah.
This topic. They're DC coupled people, and they are DC coupled people. They don't want to hear about anything else. It's more efficient off grid, and that's true. DC coupled is more efficient off grid.
Yeah.
On the AC coupled side, it's all about interoperability and clean install and retrofit, and so that's true as well, right? An AC coupled battery install is generally a cleaner install that can be done at 100% at ground level without changing the roof, which is also great if somebody already has solar and wants to add battery backup, and they don't want to void the warranty on their existing solar panels or their existing inverter, but they want to add a battery. Mm-hmm. AC coupling is a great way to do that, because you can just hook it to the breaker panel. You don't actually have to touch the solar or the existing solar inverter. So there's pros and cons of each. I happen to offer many great products, and I would say there's great products on both sides. On the DC coupled side, I would say the top brands right now are SolarEdge, Generac, Solarc, and Canadian Solar with their new battery. On the AC coupled side, Tesla Powerwall is probably the most popular one that's out there, Tesla Powerwall 2.
Yeah.
But you also have great competitors like Franklin and Enphase that have solid products. So, I do a lot of these videos where I do comparing, this battery versus this battery. And a lot of times I get the question, well, which one's better? Which one's better? And the answer really is it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on what your situation is, what your requirements are. So like, for example, if you need really high surge power for whole house backup with central air conditioning, well, a Franklin battery, which is bigger and higher surge power, might be a better fit. And
that's a 10 kilowatt output, correct, for the surge?
10 kilowatt surge per battery, right?
Yeah.
So if you do 3 batteries for a whole house, that's 30 kilowatts,
I mean, like an Enphase battery is 3.7 kilowatt output with like a 5, right,
Yeah,
kilowatt surge.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, that's already twice as much.
Right. So I think that that is like one of the unique selling points that Franklin will lead with is highest surge power for 10 seconds, which is enough to get your air conditioning going without a soft start. But I try not to be too religious about it. I try to really take it on a case-by-case basis. At the end of the day, we offer just about all those products. Through our various installers, we offer all those products. I know a lot of times people will say, "Oh, you must work for Enphase because you're bashing Tesla."
I hear that often.
Or but I don't work for any of these companies. I like to cover the products because I think they're exciting products. And just like a lot of you out there in the audience, I want to know what features are coming out and how the product is evolving.
Yeah.
But I know this has been kind of a roundabout answer, Julian. I think the answer, though, is really, it depends on your situation. If you're talking about a purely off-grid system, yes, DC coupled is definitely more efficient for purely off-grid. Once electric vehicles and solar inverters have tight integration, I think there's also going to be some efficiency to be gained in a pure DC coupled architecture, where you can go straight DC from solar to the vehicle battery or to the home battery, and then only invert what you need for the rest of the house. I do see some advantages there, but I don't see AC coupling going away. I think especially the retrofit market. There's millions of solar homes out there right now. 85% of them don't have any storage at all, and those that are looking to add storage are more likely going to go with an AC coupled solution, I would imagine. And the technology is changing every year
constantly.
Too. So Enphase is about to release their 3rd generation battery.
Yep.
So we're going to be having more on that. I actually, they invited me to come out to their facility in California in June to get some hands-on with the new generation battery. So I'm excited to see what they've come up with.
I heard some rumors about it. It's pretty exciting. So I'm hoping that they can deliver on some of these numbers.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
But this means it's another new product. We'll see how that fits into the competitive landscape. Obviously, SolarEdge has got their battery because of their footprint. I think it has to be taken seriously, just like Enphase. I mean, they both of them have huge install bases. So when they release a branded battery as part of their ecosystem, that battery is going to get attention. And a lot of homeowners may choose to just keep everything under one brand. So I think you're going to probably see a lot of deployments on both sides.
Yeah, I think a lot of contractors and they're going to want to avoid having to set up different apps to monitor system production versus storage. Because that's the case right now with mixing and matching different products. Like even if you have like Enphase and Tesla, right? It's like 2 different apps. You have the Enlighten and then you have the Tesla app.
Right.
So integration is an issue with these manufacturers, obviously. So yeah, I think a lot of contractors are going to opt towards going with just one all-in-one branded system.
I do think from an ease of serviceability and an ease of monitoring for the homeowner, having everything under one app, there is a lot of convenience there. The one that I would say where we see that they have a good brand following that doesn't care about separate apps is with Franklin. We do see a lot of homeowners that are asking for the Franklin battery specifically by name, and I think it boils down to what you've mentioned, just the higher surge power. If you just want the most powerful battery that you can add on to just about any solar system, for right now, pretty much Franklin's got it.
I mean, I spent about 45 minutes talking with the engineer, one of the engineers at their booth here, and he has me pretty convinced that it's worth giving a shot to and seeing how they actually, work in reality, because the numbers are very, very impressive.
Yeah. I mean, we've put about 15 total Franklin systems out. We just commissioned another one last week in Texas. So again, I don't promote the brand necessarily, but it's just one of those products that we have in the portfolio that in certain applications, specifically whole house backup with central air conditioning, we find it's a really good fit. So what else is going on out there? I guess bidirectional EV charging is another one that at least we're talking about it now. Enphase made some big news a couple months ago when they announced their bidirectional EV. What do you think about all that?
Well, I mean, if you look at just like the capacity of an electric vehicle versus the capacity of a home battery, I mean, like a Tesla Model 3 is around 70 kilowatt hours or something like that, or 75, depending upon the model you get. So, I mean, we're talking about oftentimes 10 kilowatt hour battery packs. So if you just look at that in terms of how much capacity the car has versus your home battery, oftentimes your car is going to have 4, 5, 6 times the capacity, sometimes even more. So, it's funny because unless you are dealing with constant blackouts, I don't think that the car is really going to come into play, because it's not like you're always going to just casually have your car at home for the perfect peak arbitrage timing. You're going to be out doing stuff. And,
right.
So at first I thought this is going to replace the need for the home battery, but as time goes on, I'm realizing that you probably won't be able to rely. It's a cool feature, but I don't think it's going to replace the need for your own storage at home. But I'm excited to have the ability to plug your car in and it power your house. I mean, that's very cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good option to have. I think you're right, though. For California, we're using the battery for rate arbitrage. That means you charge the battery when it's cheap, you sell it back to the grid when you can get a good payback for it.
Yeah.
The car battery is not really great for that application.
The average homeowner is not just home at 4 o'clock.
Right.
They're picking up their kids from practice or shopping or so it's great, but it's not going to be what people rely on, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, being more of like a emergency preparedness type guy, so what I think about is if I'm going into like a shelter in place mode, if I know there's going to be a snowstorm, and we're like, okay, come home from work, we're going to shelter in place, we're just going to prepare to be stuck at home for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, if I couldn't afford a home battery, I would certainly like to be able to just plug my vehicle battery in. And,
by all means. It's great.
So yeah, really exciting. I plan to put one in, for what it's worth. I plan to put in one of the bidirectional chargers once they're available, and at least have that option available. Hoping that the electric vehicle manufacturer will support that export functionality.
Yeah. So I have another question. So sure. I am curious with another big kind of topic that's been going on right now, of course, is all the interest rates skyrocketing, literally 2 to 3 times higher than they were 6 to 9 months ago. And there's a lot of talk about like PPAs, power purchase agreements and leases becoming a little bit more popular again, as people maybe are hesitant to take on a higher interest rate. Have there been any PPA or leases that you've seen come onto the market that aren't like as how do I say this, as predatory maybe in like their potential buyout option? Is there anything that's interesting that you've seen, or are we still pretty much still with higher interest rates, still in a scenario where like 99% of the time it's still going to make sense to buy? What do you think about that?
Well, I really appreciate the question, and this is actually a question that I'm trying to get answered for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not the best guy to answer about leases because, full transparency, SolarSurge has never done a single leased project. We do financed ownership, loans.
Yeah, we avoid them as well because we know that they're not really for the customer. It's for the financing company to make the money.
Right. And that's kind of what I've heard about it. Just high level was, when interest rates were lower, you could sell a system with a huge sales commission. You get a low monthly payment for the homeowner, and then the finance company makes out as well. That's the basics I understand. I also understand there's some advantage if you can't take advantage of the tax credit, that you might get a better return with a lease system versus a purchase system with financing. But what I'm seeing more of, and what I'm really leaning towards as far as how to structure these finance deals if you don't want to just purchase the system outright, is just acknowledge that you're going to pay a higher interest rate. In fact, why don't we just get into this? Because you do a great job with this type of content. Like, hey, let me show you how this really works. the way solar financing has worked over the past few years, these artificially low interest rates that were being offered with the solar systems, those were bought down rates.
Exactly.
Now, anybody that comes from mortgage industry or auto industry, you know what that means. It means you pay points at the time of sale to buy down the interest rate so you can present a more attractive interest rate to the homeowner. So think about it, Julian, if you're having to pay 5 or 6% interest mortgage for your home mortgage, how should you be able to finance a solar system for 2% interest where there's no collateral? Does that make any sense?
No.
So how does it really work?
So maybe it's not like this right now in the car market, but like 5-6 years ago, you know how they'd be like, you can take this $5,000 rebate, or you can get the 0% financing, but you can't take both. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here. I mean, if you're going to have the 0% financing, you're going to pay $5,000 more for the car, right? Because they have to make their money somehow.
Right.
So that's the same exact thing with solar financing. Let's say your cash project is $30,000, and if you want to finance that at 9 or 10%, you finance your $30,000 and just pay your monthly interest. But most of these solar loans, like 95% of them, are all structured with this buy down rate where you're not financing $30,000, you're financing $30,000 plus 15 to 30%. And so, now you're talking about financing, call it $38,000, and the bank just takes the $38,000 off the top in exchange for you getting your interest rate lowered to, whatever it is now, 3%, 4%. It used to be like 1% or 0%.
Yeah. But you're paying several $1,000s at closing, or you're borrowing a larger amount, which a certain percentage of that just gets taken and paid straight to the finance company before the contractor gets paid.
Yeah, the contractor still just gets their 30.
Right, exactly.
The bank is taking the 8.
The bank is taking the 8 right off the top. So even if you pay out off early, you're not going to get that 8 back.
Yeah, so basically the way that this financial engineering has been done is they will work it out to where oftentimes your payment with the buy down does become a little bit less. Maybe it does save you an extra 30, 40, 50 bucks a month, but if you want to get out of it before year 25 or whenever it's over, or 20, you're giving them the full amount. All 38, versus if you take the 10% or the 9% rate, your principal at that, it's only $30,000 that your principal was. So, the average person's going to pay off their solar loan way before the term. Whether they're moving, they get a little cash and they just want to get rid of their payment. They want to pay it off so they don't have to pay more interest. There's multiple reasons why. And so 9 times out of 10, the bank is going to make more money if you do the buy down, even though it's appearing to look better in the beginning. Right. So a lot of my consulting really is not even about the solar. Yes, we obviously need to get the right solar system for you, but the financing conversation is sometimes just as long as the solar conversation, because you're not just buying a solar system, you're also going into business with a financing arm as well. And there's 100 different options there too. And I've seen people get great deals on their solar and then get wrecked on the financing basically.
Right.
So you have to have both. You have to understand both and be able to explain both.
Yeah.
Both ways.
The way I look at it is like, look, if you know what the rates are to mortgage a home, that's the kind of rate you should expect for solar.
It's not going to be lower.
Yeah, it's not going to be lower. If you see an artificially low rate like 3% or 4%, you can pretty much guarantee you're paying points, or somehow you're paying a higher price to get that lower rate. But I think it's one question that you want to make sure you ask during the sales process is, do you plan on keeping this loan long term, or do you think you're probably going to sell the house within 5 or 10 years, like most people do?
Yeah.
Because that's the only time I think it ever makes sense to really pay those high closing costs or the buy downs, the aggressive rate buy downs.
If you're never going to sell.
Is if you're in your forever house and you're never going to sell it.
Exactly.
And you're never going to pay off early.
Yeah. Right. And you want to maximize the tax credit because you'll get 30% of the fee back.
Right.
So.
Well, folks, that pretty much does it for today's podcast. Again, Julian Todd-Borden, if you haven't seen him on YouTube, go check out. He's got some great product reviews and equipment reviews on YouTube. And Julian, thank you again so much for the time. And
the only thing though is that it's Borden.
Borden, okay.
We can redo it. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was like,
oh, you know what? I didn't even see that before. Yeah.
All right.
No, you're good. I didn't even notice that until like literally just right now.
Okay, that's all right. We'll make sure we get it right on the event.
You're good.
All right. Well, folks, that pretty much does it for today's podcast. Again, Julian Todd-Borden here. Another solar expert. Again, you'll see him on YouTube. Check out his YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And Julian, really appreciate your time. Look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to call me, 760-473-5878. It's my cell. Call or text me, and I'll do my best to help you out if you would like to work with me.